And so, although Twitch doesn't retain videos, but for YouTube, it's like, yeah, I've got 3 YouTube accounts, one of which is me, one of which is OSA, where I put all of my farming videos, and then I've got a railway video channel that I'm putting out videos on the model railway. I'm not doing them very quickly. Problem is, you've got to take time out to video what you're doing. Then you've got to download that off the camera and produce a video. It doesn't take long, but it's half an hour for a 15-minute video maybe, where I have to concentrate on what I'm doing. I can't do anything else. So they don't come out very often. Plus it's the hassle to take the camera downstairs, record what I'm doing, position the camera right. Still getting into the hang of that. So I will eventually, I may possibly, should I say, increase the output. But for right now, it's a slow progress. How are we doing with this one? Okay, we're about half a tank of diesel. That's fine. I think I've done all 3 to this point. This is the 4th field. And I've used a third of a tank of gas. 3/8 maybe. So we'll get this one done. We should probably fill up with diesel before we embark on the next job in this tractor. Now, the other thing is, obviously, once we start the sugar beet harvest, I think the trailer I've now got is bigger than the sugar beet harvester's capacity. So we should be able to do other things if I need to. I don't think I've got a lot of other things I can do, because that will be 2 tractors on that job. But as soon, and I'll probably keep the the ATAR on the subsoiler so that we can follow the sugar beet harvester around as it completes a field. We can get that ploughed and work our way along with it. So, but I will have the case freed up. So I will be able to do jobs with the case. Although again, we've got mulching to do on these fields once we've finished doing all this. I think we'll have to check once we start the actual harvest. Excuse me. I will do a little bit of a check to make sure that what am I saying? Make sure it needs mulching. They don't need mulching. We can move right along and just subsoil and move on. I think these fields do need mulched. Sorghum doesn't. Or when you've harvested sorghum, it just says, yeah, the field's mulched. So it's okay, whatever. Now, also, if we don't hit, obviously we're going to know in December if we've hit the achievement requirements for sorghum, which is to sell 500,000 litres of sorghum. So we have quite a lot of it, and we've done quite a lot of it, but I'm not sure we're right on the mark for selling it yet. And it's in our grain bins, so not selling it till January. I could check that. So sorghum sell in January. Sugar beets don't have any in stock. Sugar beet cut is how it's referenced here. Sugar beet cut is, oh, that's November. So yes, we really, really, really need to get a move on this. And the only reason I've got the shed on the farm is because you have to do so much carting with sugar beets. I don't want to go far. That's why I've just kept it to these. They're a little bit of an outlier, but these are small fields, so I don't, it's not like a 24-hour job on one big field. But at some point we will need to move sugar beets out. Maybe when it gets dark, if we harvest, we ship them all to the farm, and then we do haulage out when it's dark, or when I have a spare tractor. I don't think I'm going to have much in the way of spare tractors though today, unless something comes up for sale. That's good. Go. So as far as the railway is going, we painted the 2 tracks we laid in the last 30 days, within the last month. We've now painted at least the sleepers, so they're not shiny black plastic. They're a matte brown sort of colour. I didn't mind getting any of that on the side of the tracks because it makes the tracks look dirty, which is good. I have no idea where my ballast tubs are, but we need to get onto that as well. But we can, I can paint sections of track on the main loops now. So that can now be, if I can't do anything else, I can do that. I did spend yesterday under the tables wiring up the bay platform and the attendant siding, so they now have power. Obviously, because there was a lot of ink on the tracks, I couldn't test them to see if the electricity is actually flowing. I have to probably take some. That's not good. Take some IPA to them and get the tops cleaned. Then I'll give them a quick test that yes, the electricity is flowing. And I really need to get onto the turnouts and put the point motors in. I've got to cut a piece of wood. So many things I've got to do down there. But if I don't feel like cutting a piece of wood, I can paint some track. If I do feel like painting some wood, I can paint some wood. I can cut some wood, and then I can mount electrical components on it. So there's all sorts of fun. 1, 2, 3 things I can get done. But I'm not tied into I've got to get this thing done before I can get that thing done. Which is what a lot of it has been in the past. I've got to get, obviously you can't lay track until you got baseboards down. So there was a whole stretch of, I progressed quite well on the baseboards because I cut them all, every single one of them. So I had a stack of cut lumber. And then all I had to do was to, screw them all down. But there was no delays. The only delay ended up being, I've run out of... What was it? I went to the store and I bought 3 packs of angle brackets. Didn't know how many I'd need. But I went back, saw how many I used and how far I got, and it was like, I am going to need 24 packs of angle brackets. So I went back to the store and sort of, I need 24 of these. They said, well, we order them 6 at a time. You can put in a special order, but you have to pay up front. And it'll take about a week and a half to get here. So it's like, okay, fine, I'll order. So I couldn't do any, place any boards for a week and a half. But as soon as the angle brackets got in, it was like, my New Year's resolution had been, I want to spend at least an hour in the basement every night after work, just progressing. So it's not just sitting there doing nothing for ages. And so that was how I got started with progression, and we moved on really quickly. I could lay about 10 feet of wood with all the attendant brackets and supports, and then it got to track lay or doing the foam again doesn't take long. You just have to glue it on to the boards. So again, that's a really quick job. And I was putting the foam down and then putting heavy weights on it. So when I ran out of heavy weights, it was like, okay, that's done. But then track laying got a little bit slower. Okay, what are we looking at here? That's 2, so we're going on this one. And I could lay about 6 to 10 feet of track, so it took me an entire month. Not even, no. 3 to 6 feet of track, but you have to cut it, you have to put the turns into it. Just bend it so that it meets the radius of turn that you want. You have to pin it down, you have to glue it down, and it's like I can get 3, maybe 6 feet done in one day, but then you have to clamp it down, you have to walk away for 24 hours, then you have to come back, and sometimes it wasn't quite right. I had to pull some of it up and put it back down again because there was a kink in it or something. So that all takes, that was slow going. And I had two loops about 55 foot long, each loop. So, a 6 foot a day, potentially, usually more likely 3 when you take into account the taking things up and putting things down. That's slow going. It took me a month to put down one loop. It took me a second month to put down the second loop. Then came the wiring it all up. So I was crawling under the tables when my back wasn't out and doing that. However, because the rails were fairly well put together, I must say, they were conducting electricity for the most part. So as soon as I put the first connection in to the main bus, I could pretty much run a train around an entire circle, except some points the electrical contact wasn't that great. But you don't leave it at that. I have a wire wires from the bus to each piece of track. So if you think a piece of track is 3 foot, 56, 55 feet round the table, so you're almost 23 foot lengths. So you have to wire up 40 points of contact, because 2 loops. That takes a while. I think that took me about 2 months to finish wiring it up, but I had electrical contact at all points well before that. I still haven't. I haven't wired up the motors for the turnouts, and that's a finesse job. They have to be absolutely precise. So at the moment, all I've got is the point motors are screwed on top with a piece of wire holding the turnout so that the 2 loops can be used. But eventually, or soon now, I'm going to wire up the switch for the bay and siding, and I'll need to wire up the switch for the access to that point from the main line. So 2 turnouts need to be wired up, which involves a lot of new wiring, and as I said, I need to cut a piece of wood. That piece of wood is to mount the electrics for the switches, or the control units for the switches, to the table. Shouldn't take me too long. Once I've got the first one in and I've adjusted the precision of the point motor so that it works reliably, I can do all of them in very, very quick time, because they are what they are. Obviously made it round. So once one's done, the following on from one is very simple. The control units run 4, so I can wire the first 4 really quickly. I then have to wire in another control unit, and then I can do the next 4 really quickly. And then I have to buy some more stuff because I don't have a control unit for the other end of the line or of the station. But they're all, it's all very straightforward. I can wire it all in and we should be good if it works. But the first one is always the most tricky. And I'm doing the first one is the one that's not on the main loops, so that I can still watch train run by while I'm figuring it out. But that's where we're sitting at the moment. But I think my New Year's resolution is once again going to be, I want to, if my back will do it, spend an hour downstairs after work every day making progress on the trains. And as I said, I now have jobs I can do that doesn't rely on I have to complete this other thing before I can do that thing. So I have to complete making the support shelf for the control boxes before I can actually put them up and wire them in and everything else. So that involves I have to cut a piece of wood. Normally, to cut a piece of wood, it needs to be rather warm outside because Mrs. Osa doesn't particularly like me cutting wood in the basement because it makes a mess. But we'll see how that works out. Some wood I have to cut in place, so I can probably get that all done. Then what? Then, yeah, I don't know. I've got to do some laser cutting of the platform support. And again, that might be, I can do that at any time. But it's working towards a goal. I do have some formed plastic walls that are very thin and flexible. Unfortunately, the station's not straight. It has a curve at both ends, so I can't build it easily out of straight bits of wood that don't bend, but I could build a framework that is straight and glue the plastic sort of formed stone walls to the wood, the straight bits of wood, and make sure that they form the curve of the track. I have no idea how I'm going to do the tops, because those are going to be a problem nightmare, because I'm not going to be able to cut wood. Well, see, what I can do is I can cut bits of paper, scan them into the computer, use the image to form a cut pattern so I can cut the platform surfaces. That might be the way to go. I'm going to go through a lot of paper. But that should work reasonably well, I think. The other thing is I need to make sure that the platform surface, either I've got to glue the platform surfaces down and leave it so that the whole platform can be lifted, or I glue the platform framework to the baseboard and make sure the tops can be lifted off so that I can have lights and the like. Because the lights won't come for a while. I do know what I'm doing. I know what I plan to do. I don't know how easy it's going to be. It's kind of like the turnouts. I know what I want to do. I also know that I want push buttons to work them, but they will work with sort of computer control. So initially they will be set up, because that's how the control box works with the computer control, but I do have the push button modules. I just don't have the push buttons or a fascia set up to put the push buttons on. But at least I'll be able to use everything. You use the turnouts. I just have to remember what number I programmed this. But anyway, enough of that. Yeah, it's... What is it? It's 32 degrees and sunny. We should be generating power. My home is a power station. Up until now, we've just had a propane generator for when power goes out. And since we installed the propane generator, the power has never gone out. Because typical. We actually had, the energy company contacted us and said, oh, your power's out. We'll be restoring it within the next 24 hours. It's like, no, it's not. And went outside and looked, and everybody else on the street, their power was working. Next street over, nobody had power. So the electric company doesn't know how their power lines are connected to places. We have generated 600 watts today, and we are currently generating 1.02 kilowatts. Okay. Yes, I am a power station. Woohoo! Now, we're not making enough to be an electrical supplier to the grid, but we are generating enough that we're sucking less out of the grid. So we should end up with cheaper electric bills going forwards, which I'm all for. Eventually, especially during the summer when we are generating more power than we use. Although I expect possibly hot spring and autumn or fall days, we will generate a lot more power than we're using. During the summer, you got the air conditioning, so that can chew into the power you're using. But we generate power during sunlight hours and then draw back in the night time. We get credit for all the electricity that we dump onto the grid during the day. And therefore, that counts against the amount we're using for the entire year. So next winter, we'll be using, the plan would be we use up the credit of what we generate during the summer. Unfortunately, our system didn't come online until 11th of December. So, yeah, this is not a good time of year to generate electricity, although that said, we've generated 65 kilowatt hours so far this month. And that was in probably the last week. It's 25th, yeah, so it's, the last week, maybe week and a half. So that's all good.